good morning. I'm a bit of a day late on this one. I had a lot going on this weekend, so I did not really have the time or the energy to do this yesterday on Sunday. It is Monday, August 11th. I have a week in review, read, getting rid of, received, watched, all that fun stuff. I did not read a ton of books this past week. I was at 3 before yesterday when I finished another one, so I'm at 4 books. I did watch a movie, getting rid of some stuff that is not in what I read, for reasons which I will tell you when I get there, and I have a good chunk of books to talk about that I received. So first up, what I read and watched. The first book I read this past week is Do Not Disturb 2, The Platinum Palace by John Athan. I did not read the first Do Not Disturb book. I had a feeling that I didn't need to understand the second one, and I believe I was right. If there is some magical thing in the first book that makes this book, so much better, don't let me know. And I didn't hate this, okay? Like, this wasn't terrible, especially in terms of extreme horror. Absolutely top of the pack. Okay, maybe not top. I think Megan Stockton's higher, but other than that, it's way up there. But basically, what this is, the Platinum Palace follows this hotel in Las Vegas called Platinum Palace, and it's brand new, very fancy. And on this certain day, a group of evil killy clowns start attacking Las Vegas. More specifically, the Platinum Palace, but they are kind of doing things everywhere. And we primarily follow this father of these 2 children, who were really one of the early victims of the clown attacks, after he has been brutalized, as well as this police chief man. I don't know if he's a chief, but he's not a police chief. He's a beat cop. This cop, we follow a cop, a cop and a father. And then the main goal here is to stop the clowns, but also to rescue this man's daughter, because his son dies in like the first 10% of the books. So he's really focused on rescuing his daughter, who ends up being captured by these clowns because they like to kidnap children to add to their circus, because the younger child is the easier they are to manipulate. And as I said, genuinely, this is really up there when it comes to extreme horror. I think in general, extreme horror tends to be very poorly written, and it's just not all that good. And so, in general, I'm not a big fan of extreme horror. I've made this very clear several different times. And this book does still have a lot of the same issues that other extreme horror novels do, and I think this book did make me kind of figure it out, because this book is not bad. It's definitely extreme. It's okay. It's not poorly written. It's grammatically, it's fine. And it even does have some feeling in there and some characterization that a lot of really bad extreme horror doesn't have. However, I think what makes extreme horror so bad for me is the fact, I've kind of touched on this before with the clinical situation, but there's no metaphor here. And like, there's no figurative language. And that's consistent through a lot of extreme horror, and I think that's what really separates splatterpunk from extreme horror. Because people talk about Poppy Z. Brite, that's extreme horror. Poppy Z. Brite is not extreme horror. Poppy Z. Brite's too good of a writer for that. And I saw this TikTok the other day that was like, people don't understand that being poorly written is a feature of splatterpunk. It's punk for a reason. Like, okay, stop calling extreme horror splatterpunk, because splatterpunk is way better than extreme horror. Being poorly written shouldn't be seen as a feature. Like, yes, anybody can write, that's great. But we should also try to be good at what we do. Not saying that John Athan's, but I gave this 3.75 out of 5 stars, which is, when it comes to extreme horror, pretty high up there. Like I said, I think Blue Jay by Megan Stockton still reigns supreme. I don't count true crime but as an extreme horror. I think it's, quite frankly, I think it's too good for that. 3.75 out of 5 stars. Definitely, if you have been disappointed by extreme horror and you were looking for an author that might not be terrible, you could do much worse than John Athan. So there we go, little rant over. I watched Bottoms. So this is a movie that I feel like is just a future cult classic comedy, where we follow these 2 young high school lesbians, and they decide to start a rumor that they were in juvie, and then they start a fight club for girls so they can get girls. I'm gonna tell you this, I rated this 5 stars in Letterboxd. 4 of those stars were for Hazel. I loved Hazel. The last star was for Complicated by Avril Lavigne. Genuinely, I thought that most of the side characters were more appealing than the main characters. Mostly I just loved Hazel. So that's all I've got to say about that. Is it good? Yeah. The best movie I've ever seen? No. Like, it's fine. All right. Then I read The House of Last Resort by Christopher Golden, and this came out in 2024. A lot of people read it. A lot of people didn't really like it, and it was fine. It wasn't that good, honestly. It was okay. So this follows this couple who decided to take advantage of this grand, like, bid for relevancy that this small Italian town is doing, where they offer immigrants into Italy euro, €1 houses as long as they stay there for 5 years and spend at least 50,000 euros fixing it up. And so we got this young American couple who's the man is actually has family in this town. So he's like, yeah, let's do this. So they get this really big, fancy, creepy old house on the hilltop. And as soon as this man's grandma learns where he's moved, she's like, oh, holy shit, no, that's a bad idea. So they try and they fix this up, and then there's all sorts of like creepy stuff going on, ghosts and demons and rats. I thought some of the descriptions of the rats were pretty fun. I liked some of the descriptions of the rats. I thought that was a great time, particularly when we were in the last probably 50-60 pages of the book. Super fun. Overall, though, it was generally underwhelming. I think that a lot of people had this book. I don't know if it was a book of the month book or something like that, but this was kind of the thriller du jour when it came out, and then people started reading it, and then everybody was kind of underwhelmed, and I kind of felt the same way. It was fine. I think it's a perfectly serviceable thriller. Get it from the library. 3.5 out of 5 stars. All right, then I finally finished The Complete Works of Lewis Carroll, and if we have learned anything from this book, it is that just read Alice in Wonderland through the looking glass. That's all you need to read. Some of the later stuff, like some of the stories and some other stuff in the miscellany, were vaguely entertaining. Sylvie and Bruno, don't talk to me about Sylvie and Bruno. Sylvie and Bruno are the most boring stuff I ever read. I hated Sylvie and Bruno. Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass were really good. I overall ended up giving this 3 out of 5 stars, mostly because if it was just Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass, it probably would have been a 5. And then Sylvie and Bruno Concluded would have been a 1, and then everything else would have been about a 3, so it averaged out to about a 3. But I did finish it. I have now read The Complete Works of Lewis Carroll, so very exciting news for me. Okay, then I read a nonfiction literary criticism situation that is Without End, Sade's Critique of Reason by William S. Allen. This is just a book discussing the Marquis de Sade and how his works kind of inform us of most of his predilections towards philosophy and stuff like that. Unfortunately, this book primarily concerned itself with Juliet, which I have not read. I have read Justine twice, and I read 120 Days of Sodom once. In general, I thought Justine was a lot better than 120 Days of Sodom. Apparently Juliet is a trip, though. This did make me want to read Juliet. I already kind of did, because I already kind of liked Juliet. I thought it was kind of fun. I really liked Justine in general, but I really loved it when her sister showed up. It was like, oh, yeah, come live with me. I've been doing great. All I've been doing is crime, and it's been working out great for me. So I'm interested in reading Juliet after this, but unfortunately, like I said, did feature heavily a book that I have not read. 3.5 out of 5 stars. So when it comes to what I'm keeping from this, literally the only thing I'm keeping is my DVD. I'm getting rid of all of these books. I don't need any of them. I'm also getting rid of 3 of my own books, like Hell, The False Prophet, and 40 Days. You may ask, Aurora, why are you getting rid of your own books? It's weird. And to that I say, I have started commissioning new covers for not all, but a vast majority of them. And this is because Amazon has started to come down hard on Canva covers, which I use most of the time. And so I haven't been hit, but I've just been slowly replacing covers. Just very slowly. So I've got these 3. Actually, my new 40 Days edition is in the book haul. This one is in the mail, and I have not gotten the cover back from this one yet. So I'm getting rid of all of these, just because I will not need them when I have new covers. All right, book haul. Unfortunately, the first book in the book haul is Seeing Straight by me, Aurora Dimitri, Pentology of Hell 5.75. This is one that I'm going to need to get a new cover for. But this is a novella for the Pentology. Follows Jake after the events of the last book. It sort of takes place like kind of right before Class B, where we are talking about trying to get Jeremy's eyesight back. So I've got that. Then I've got the third volume of Go 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 Ghost by Miyako Hirozuka, which I read the first two volumes, I think, last year. Maybe I read the second one earlier this year. Really enjoyed them. I think they're really fun. I really enjoy just how wacky these characters are. Very excited to continue on. I picked up A Spell for Heartsickness by Alistair Reeves, which is the first book in the Rune Tithe, which is fantasy, gay. We'll see how it goes. It is also an indie book, which I am in general a fan of, just because I like to support my own. All right, I made a little bookshop.org order. I purchased The Faggots and Their Friends Between Revolutions by Larry Mitchell, which is a kind of a classic of the genre. I believe it's nonfiction. It came out in the 70s. We'll see how it goes. Also, when Hikaru died, the summer Hikaru died, finally came off of back order. So I did pick up the first volume. I have been seeing mostly clips of the anime everywhere. And it just looks interesting. This has really been kind of I've been vaguely interested in this for a hot second. I've heard lots of good things. I'm excited. All right, we've got I think my last New Yorker. This is the July 28th New Yorker. I did cancel my New Yorker subscription, and I believe it was set to renew at the beginning of August, so I think this is my last one. I'm pretty sure. But I did get that. Then I got One Night in Heartswood by Emma Denny, which I have also heard good things about. This is one of those books that I've just seen about. I was in a bit of a mood, honestly, when it comes to a lot of this. Then I went to Barnes & Noble in the Mall of America, and I picked up 5 books, because that's what you do. I was just throwing cash around. I got Lost Gods by Brom. I have not yet read Evil in Me, but they had like all of Brom's stuff, and I was flipping through them, and quite frankly, I made the decision to get this one based on the artwork in the middle. That's what I did. I looked at the artwork on them, and I decided to get Lost Gods. So that's what I got. I also picked up Among the Bros by Max Marshall. This was really a trip in getting a bunch of books that I've been vaguely interested in for a long time. This is a nonfiction true crime situation about this guy who goes to investigate a fraternity where like hazing that kills people. So I had to pick this up. Interested. I got The Lost Story by Meg Schaefer, which again, another one of those books that I've been vaguely interested in a long time now. This is kind of described as vaguely Narnia-esque, but maybe a little bit more sinister. We'll see. I also picked up And They Were Roommates by Paige Powers, which again, vaguely interested in for a long time now. All right, and then the last one I picked up from there was the 7th volume of Gibbon. I've read 1 through 4. I have 5 and 6 in the book wall. I figured I would pick up the next one because I just want to make sure I always have some Gibbon on my TBR. All right, then I did get in my Secret History Donna Tartt 30th Anniversary Edition, I believe, when I filmed my big bookshelf clear out situation. I unhauled the Secret History because I mentioned that I wanted a hardcover. Like, I've read this book at least twice, maybe 3 times. I know it's one of my favorites. I need a hardcover. So I did finally go and I picked up a hardcover. And then 40 Days. This is the new cover of 40 Days. Went from this to this. I like this one better. So this is the second book in the Pentology of Hell. I'm not ordering new covers in order, which would be, you know, reasonable and makes sense. I am actually just randomly ordering new covers. But this is the second book in the Pentology of Hell. Apocalypse situation, fun time. Okay, then I also got part 1 of Losers by Harley LaRue. I read The Dare on my Kindle last year. I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. I figured I would pick up, because that's like the prequel to this. I figured I'd pick up part 1, see what's going on, see if it's as good as like the little story. And then We Could Be So Good by Cat Sebastian. I have seen Cat Sebastian around everywhere. I own the baseball one. Don't remember what it's called. Haven't read it yet, so I'm just collecting Cat Sebastian to put in the book wall, and eventually I'll read one. So there's that. That is my week in review. I hope to read more this coming week. It's the last week before school. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. I kind of want to fit in a 24-hour readathon, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think I'm going to push that to Christmas break. That's my thought, is to push that to Christmas break, because I want it to be a time when A, I don't have school, and B, I don't have grad school. So I think Christmas break might be the time, especially because Christmas break then it's like cold outside and I don't want to go anywhere or do anything. So that is that. I will talk to you later, and goodbye.